Thanks for waiting. We are ready to go with panel number 4 that will be talking about measuring and conserving marine protected areas with data and AI. And I'm very pleased to introduce the moderator for this panel, which is Emilie de Rosenroll. Emilie is the Group CEO of Greater Victoria's Economic Development Agency. And this agency includes the South Island Prosperity Partnership, the Center for Ocean Applied Sustainable Technologies, known as COAST, and the Indigenous Prosperity Center. And I'm really pleased that you're here, Emilie, and thanks for moderating today.
Hi, everybody. A huge pleasure to be here, and I'm extremely excited for this panel. I think we have a lot of insight coming up onto the stage in just a moment. So before we get going, I'd like to introduce myself again quickly. I'm Emilie de Rosenroll, and I'm the interim startup CEO for the Center of Ocean Applied Sustainable Technologies, or much easier to remember by the acronym COAST. And we're going to be actually onboarding very soon the first executive director of COAST, so quite excited about that. We're establishing Pacific Canada's hub for the ocean economy and innovation and technology in British Columbia. And I've got a few board members here in the audience, and we couldn't have done it without their contributions. Okay, so data and AI, we're looking at measurement and conserving MPAs through the use of data and AI and all of the applications. So we've got a lot of different contexts and breadth here on the panel, looking at how those areas can protect coastal areas and species, look at things like food security, create coastal jobs, keep ecosystems productive, safe, and resilient. So many topics are possible and going to happen right here in just a few moments. So thank you, Sabine. And I'm going to get going first by introducing quickly each panelist and then having them join me up on stage, and then they're going to tell us a little bit more about their company through each of those 5-minute presentations, and then we'll have lots of time for questions from the audience. Okay, so first of all, Scott Beatty from MarineLabs. MarineLabs is a BC-based technology company that looks at IoT sensors and provides an end-to-end data service along coastlines, specializing in long-life remote deployment for wind, wave, and other data sets. Scott, can you join us to the stage? Thank you. And next I have Emilie Charretier, the co-founder and CEO of Whale Seeker, which is a really interesting company that uses ethical AI and data to build fast, automated, and user-friendly whale detection. Emilie, to the stage, please. Okay, and now we have also Moritz Lehmann, who's a senior scientist with Starboard Maritime Intelligence, and his company provides a comprehensive real-time view of global maritime activity and ship movements by turning data sets into usable and actionable intelligence. And then last but never least, Chief Planis from the Sauk Nation. The chief is doing amazing work with the Snukwa Center for Sustainability and Innovation, right in BC, in Sauk and Souk, BC, on the island, using ocean technology and marine services to build an incubator and marketplace. Okay, and I'm going to invite first Scott to the stage, please, to help kick us off.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's exciting to be part of the Impact 5 community. So MarineLabs is a Victoria-based technology company. So Victoria is just a skip over the Salish Sea from here, about an hour ferry ride. I grew up there, and I'm raising my family there, and so everything that I'm doing is about protecting the coastline and keeping it safe. So it's a pleasure to be here and see other people doing the same way. So one of the aspects that I think is very important about MPAs is that maritime industries are starting to experience worse weather risk, climate change-driven weather risk. Ships are getting larger, and Ports are staying the same size, and so some of these sensitive sites are being impacted by the fact that industries are having an issue there. The same could be said for recreational vessels, and so I think MPAs are going to be affected more and more by this kind of thing. And so I have to ask myself, what are we doing about it? And what is MarineLabs doing about it? So MarineLabs provides Coast-Aware, the world's highest resolution, persistent, real-time weather data solution. We deploy sensor units along coastlines and then operate that data for marine safety and for climate resilience, and I also think there are some neat applications for MPAs. So this is a slide of our current live network. Every yellow dot is a live buoy location. If I zoom into British Columbia, we've got units from Prince Rupert, just below Alaska, all the way down to southern Vancouver Island near here. If I zoom in, there is southern Vancouver Island and a pretty good coverage there. If we click on a unit, you can access your real-time weather data. If you click on the camera button, you can access an image that is coming from that buoy location. And that image can be clicked through to get a 360-degree view of what's going on at that location. So that's initially valuable for navigators of ships who want to understand the visibility, but it's also valuable for other things. And so how does it work? What is the technology? So we build a super rugged solar-powered sensor package that measures real-time wind and wave data and as well displays camera images. That unit can be bolted onto anything that floats. It has measured the world's most extreme rogue wave, so it is very, very rugged and well tested. And so we are actively deploying these in collaboration with Canadian Coast Guard as well as US Coast Guard to convert the navigational aid system into real-time data buoys. We can also deploy these units on smaller floats, so a lot of our network has this type of float. So I wanted to introduce this. This is something that we're doing to analyze the collected data that we have. So we're measuring the motion of our buoy every 1/5 of a second, so we have every single wave undulation. And so what that allows us to do is comb through all the data with a machine learning algorithm that extracts vessel wakes from the background wind waves and then generate reports using that data. And so for a marine protected area, it could be possible to track, know who's generating what vessel wakes, how often is it happening, and how potentially damaging are they if there is an erosion concern or some kind of impact of that vessel wake. Could also be used for simply counting non-AIS tracked vessels within a region. So that's something that I'd love to talk about with the rest of the community here and learn if there's an opportunity to implement that into different data systems. I'm proud to say that we've done a lot of work with Chief Gordon Planis and the Sauk Nation, who's up on the stage with us. We've done a lot of testing, and we're currently monitoring a harbor location, 5 locations, but one of them for vessel traffic. And so that is us. We've had a lot of collaborations over the years, and very, very keen to get involved and see where our data can make a difference with MPAs. So thank you.
The right company. Hi, my name is Emilie Charretissier. I am the founder and CEO of Whale Seeker. We use ethical AI to detect marine mammals from imagery. And one thing that differentiates us is that we use off-the-shelf cameras and technology that's available to everyone. So anyone can buy a satellite image, anyone can buy a drone and take some images that way. We really want to democratize access to these tools so that anyone who wants to manage for marine mammal safety has the tools. Here you have an example of some belugas in the Arctic with the confidence of our algorithm on whether or not they are whales. And so here you can see that our algorithm is rather certain that these are all whales, these are belugas in the Arctic. Our tool is called Mobius, and it's a human-in-the-loop tool that we use. And so what that means is that the algorithm goes through the brunt of the images, and whenever there's a question on sort of an edge case, then that's when it gets kicked over to the experts to make a judgment call. So the experts aren't bogged down with going through lots of imagery that don't need their expertise. And this allows marine managers and marine biologists to really scale up their monitoring capabilities without losing any accuracy. So we work with lots of different industries, but I'm here today to talk to you about the work that we've been doing in Canada's MPAs. So the shaded area in gray is an area called the Last Ice Area, and this is in Canada's north. The blue areas are areas that Whale Seeker has analyzed images from, and the hashed images are the protected areas, the MPAs in Canada's north. So as you can see, it is huge areas. And so we need to be talking about scaling ethically, and making sure that these tools are available in areas that are remote and accessible to all managers. Here are some examples of the images that we can analyze. So the top left image is a satellite image. It's WorldView 3, and those are narwhals that are outlined in turquoise. To the right is an aerial image with lots of ice, and in the very center of that, there's a single whale annotated. The bottom left, although it might look like the tropics, it is also in the Arctic, and those are narwhals. And then on the right, we have a seal detected on ice using infrared imagery. So these are all different types of remote sensing imagery that we can use, and we can help marine managers use to properly manage their areas. The current species that we are using Mobius to detect are here. As I said, we're mostly working in Canada's Arctic right now, but really the possibilities are endless. So happy to scale with any type of needs that MPA managers have.
Yeah, good afternoon. Before I get into my presentation, press one forward. Just waiting for my first slide. Before I get into my presentation, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Squamish First Nation, the Tsleil-Waututh Nation, and the Musqueam Indian Band, and thank them very much for the warm welcome that they've extended to us here on their traditional territory at the opening ceremony on Friday. It was pretty amazing. My name is Moritz Lehmann. I work for Starboard Maritime Intelligence, and Starboard is a web browser-based maritime domain awareness platform, and it provides intelligence for the control and enforcement of marine protected areas. At the heart of Starboard are global ship locations through the AIS, or Automated Identification System, that we've heard about before. And in that, it is very similar to other platforms, such as the MDA platform that we were looking at in the previous panel. But there are two unique features of Starboard that I'd like to talk about here, and that are particularly important for the interpretation of ship traffic with respect to marine protected areas and small areas, or areas of the ocean in general. First, Starboard by default shows you track history of ships. So what you see here is just 7 days of global vessel traffic, and those vessels include fishing vessels, container vessels, commercial, other commercial ships, and also pleasure craft and private vessels that are fitted out with AIS transceivers. This is a massive amount of information that's coming into our system in real time. And so interpreting this information can be difficult, and it's sort of a needle in the haystack problem. So our second distinguishing feature is that we take the vessel positions in real time and analyze them and provide an event-based database for the end user. So we're going from vessel positions. AIS messages are transmitted usually on fairly high frequencies. So minute or faster to a global network of satellite and shore stations and pick those up. But in the end, they're really just geo-positions with a timestamp. And we're taking these positions and analyzing them. We're interpolating between them to extrapolate where the vessel is at any given time between those minute-long intervals. And we're interpreting the behavior of the vessels at sea. And some of the behavioral features that we're looking for are shown here on the screen. So we can identify fishing behavior based on the track that a ship is steaming along. We often look for buoys that are also on AIS data. So many longliners, for example, use AIS transmitters on their gear, put it over the side, and then they can find it back using the AIS transmissions. And those really make the AIS data set really, really messy, really hard to work with. So we compare our screen to many of similar platforms, and there are a lot more ships on similar platforms because they haven't filtered out the buoys, and it was really hard to do. And that's one thing we're doing and continuously improving. We're highlighting when a vessel is turning off AIS, which is by itself a very suspicious activity. So that vessel may not be wanting to be detected in the activity that it's carrying out. Could have legitimate reasons as well. Sometimes you don't want to be showing your position if you're afraid of piracy, for example, or equipment failure. But sometimes it's just really an indicator of suspicious activity. We detect anomalous movement, a ship that is steaming in a certain direction that in comparison to the general traffic patterns in that area, is doing something funky, changing the course, changing the speed with which it's steaming. And we detect these and highlight these and store that event in our database. And also, we look for encounters at sea. So when two vessels get together for a certain amount in a certain distance, we call this an encounter at sea, and these encounters can be very suspicious. They are can be used to transfer illegal catch. They can be used to extend the sea time of vessels for months and months by providing fuel and other necessities for the ship to continue without having to go into port, which is really questionable practice for labor rights cases. And those are just some of the features that we're automatically detecting on every track, on every vessel that we monitor in our systems global. And so we then provide access to this database through our web-based user interface. And the user can set filters to look for specific vessels that fit certain criteria to when they enter a predefined area, for example, a marine protected area, or in this case, the exclusive economic zone of New Zealand here, that you would get an alert when something like this happens. So here on this screen, as an example, we look for encounters with vessels that have been identified through a list of illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, or IUU fishing. So a vessel that may have been encountering with one of those ships, or a vessel that hasn't had any port visits in a long time. And so we're combining this in our platform, and we filter this information so that analysts that are dealing with marine protected areas, that are dealing with fisheries in certain areas, can concentrate on the work that they're really there to do. And this is to look for these high-risk vessels, and we provide the risk indicators through our platform in real time, and also for the last 3 years. So our database goes back 3 years. And we have a small booth over there in a banner that is not really a booth, but we have a banner, and that's where we set up a laptop. I invite you to come by and take a look at our platform. It's operational, and if you have an area of interest, we'd love to see it and show you more, get hands-on. And thank you very much for your attention.
My respected relatives, and to each and every one of you, my name is Gordon Planis. My traditional name is Hayakwacha. I'm named after my great-grandfather from Chiano, the salmon people. I live in the village of Sayosin in Sauk. Sayosin means the sounds the pebbles make when they're being washed up on our shores. So I get to hear that every day, and that's not a bad thing. I just want to share a little bit about what we're doing at home. It's just a little bit, and we're doing it for our children. And we have a lot of work to do. This here, you look at the snakwa. The snakwa is the watchman. Anytime anyone comes near the village, the snakwa will jump up and warn you somebody is near. So the watchman is very important to our people. They're the ones that take care of us. They're our alarm clock. But also the watchman is who we are as Sauk people. We have to monitor and look after our territory. It feeds us. And we have to hand down that knowledge to the younger generation so they know how to take care of it as well. You know, I just wanted to mention before I go to the next slide, and I wanted to just point to that pavilion over there. Kelly and Edith, you did a really good job on that, I gotta admit. They're from Nutsamot Resources Group, and they did it with Alder Hill Planning. And the reason I needed to bring this up, I needed to acknowledge the good work that you did. And also, just to note, I sit on many boards as a chief, and I am the chair of Nutsamot Resources Group. So I was really pleased to see that, so thank you, Aishka. So applying lessons from the past as we move forward. Now, one of the things that you think about when you look at a picture like this is that one can draw parallels between modern science and technology and the practice of watching and studying the natural environment. You see these canoes here. It's a very old picture, and you're looking at today's technology. So when I looked at that, what came to my mind is learning the past. At one time, there was 10,000 canoes along the coast, and now there's just a handful. So the work we're doing today is not just for the science, but it's also to enhance our territories and to keep our culture, because we know if we keep our culture strong, we can heal the environment. So it's very important. When we look at collect and analyze data using new technology, Sauk Nation, through its for-profit entities, SLACAL, and nonprofit Sauk Center of Sustainability and Innovation, SNAQUA Center, are building smart tools to make well-informed, risk-based decisions. And on the top, you'll see the ocean sled. In the middle, you will have different technologies like the ROV on the end. And also we're thinking about how are we going to adapt to all the changes that happened in the last few years? And are we going to be able to raise our children in a way that they'll be better in the next 10 years? And I think with all this new innovation and new technology, we're going in a good path. We have a Marine team at home right now, and I'm just excited for the future because I really believe that we're at a time that we need to all come together. And the elders told me there's going to be a time that this is going to happen. And there's going to be a full circle effect that our people can lead the way in protecting Mother Nature. But we found that you have to all do it together. And that's what we're striving for, is a way to communicate together. And this is just a part of the equation. There's a lot of work to do. So benefits of partnering with Sauk Nation: testing facility, ability to develop, test, and evaluate technologies with facilities, equipment, and technology professionals. Testing dollars, Ocean Supercluster, TMX accommodations, Oceans Protection Plan, and many more. Commercial opportunities and ITB multipliers. SLACAL qualifies as Indigenous business with 9+ multipliers for R&D. Value of future sales opportunity. And First Nation partnership opportunities. Let us help you realize a development vision by providing boots on the ground implementation support. Other tech working with you. Use our support vessels, Ocean Sled, MarineLab buoys, drones, ROVs, and spill response capabilities for marine stewardship applications. So, in closing, I went on this tribal journey back in 2017, the We Will Come. That's up in Kalma River. There's over 100 canoes there. And that journey was with many, many nations all together, paddling together as one. And I want to leave with those words as paddling together as one, because we have to do that now. We don't have a choice. And just to note, we're going on a tribal journey this year to Muckleshoot. It's going to be awesome. I'm sure our Marine team, and I'll have a few others in there, we're going to bring our 53-foot canoe. It takes 22 paddlers, and we'll probably be gone for about 2 weeks. But this is very important, because as we go, we are all on a journey, and we're all in it together, and we all have to learn from each other. And I think if we all do that, we're going to go to a good place. So we don't know where that journey's going to go. We really don't. But I know where I'm going to be next year. Next year, Tribal Journeys is in Oregon. That's going to be fun. Open ocean is real hard to do. So everybody, thank you very much. This is great. Thank you. Haishka.
Thank you all very much. Those were wonderful presentations. To kick us off, I'd like to ask a fairly open question about how each of you see the greatest untapped opportunities with respect to data and AI and looking at certain outcomes. And if you can explore those outcomes a little bit more, maybe starting off, let's go straight over back to Chief Planas.
And what is the question?
I caught you because you already just spoke, so you didn't think I was going to ask you a question right away. The greatest unmet opportunities that you see, especially as a community who is really the end user, the practitioner, the custodian. So what do you see the opportunities that have not yet been met?
Well, I think new innovations coming in every few years. I think we're going to find opportunity where well, of course, I sure hope the price point comes down. You know, when we put in our solar panels over a decade ago, they were $1,000 a panel. Now you can buy the same panel even better for 185 bucks. So just thinking it that way, how are we all going to be sustainable? And I think we're all learning from that. I think it changes and evolves over time. We're doing technology today, but let's think about it. What is that technology going to look like in 10 years? And we got to be able to ramp up and move and do things faster. And I think that's the economy of the future, is to get things done faster but affordable. Can we get there? I do not know, but we're sure going to try.
Absolutely. Well, I love you always bring such a long-term vision to ground the conversations. I appreciate that. And maybe I'll go to Moritz next for the same take on this question.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. Can you send us some of the solar panels to New Zealand? I think there's still $1,000 a pop there. I think, and making technology more affordable is awesome. I think that's happening. Where we really see a lot of need for improvement is collaboration and communication between end users and groups. And so working together, we work a lot with fisheries clients in the Pacific Ocean, and you see the value that transnational collaborations play there, and really coming together to monitor and enforce vast areas of the ocean that really one nation on its own the biggest nation on its own cannot enforce. And this really is something that we have to improve, and at the highest level as well, including the government and the regulatory frameworks for this collaboration. And I'd say there's quite a bit of work to do in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the ecosystem, the governance challenges of what we're sort of talking about are really incredible, much more so than just the technology challenges alone, although those are large too, I think. Emilie, how about your take on that question?
Yeah, I guess I would just build on what was already mentioned. I completely agree with powerful technology coming down in price, becoming more accessible. I say the biggest untapped opportunity is really putting those tools now into the hands of the users, so that all of the data doesn't need to be top down, that everyone is really qualified, with the right easily accessible tools to take high quality data and make informed decisions and fact-based decisions that will benefit their communities, that will benefit their environment, and that's really a win-win for everyone. And so I guess that's my answer.
Okay, great answer. Okay, and last will be Scott before we'll open it up to the audience in just a moment. So Scott, over to you.
Sure. I have two answers to this. I have a very self-promotional answer and then another answer. So I'll start with the non-self-promotional. So we saw this in the previous panel, and we've been seeing it everywhere. I think there's a huge untapped opportunity in fusing different data types together. Sensor fusion, data fusion, there's so much availability of different complementary data sources that we haven't seen yet. And even just in the question that Moritz had for the MDA in the last panel. And then the self-promotional answer is that we have, in Canada, we have the longest coastline in the world, and there are about 40 some odd ocean data acquisition buoys that the government runs, but there are 10,000 floating navigational aids. And so I think that there's a huge untapped opportunity in getting data from thousands of locations that are just sitting there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Those are huge. So we've tapped on a lot of major opportunities, but also kind of inherent barriers or challenges to overcome. Maybe I'll just take a look at the audience. If there are any questions right now from the audience, shake your hand at me. And if not, I'm gonna keep. I've got 100 questions, so I can keep going all day. Okay, my next question is actually on the barriers.
There's a question there.
Oh, there is one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Go ahead. There's probably a microphone coming right over to you.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all of your brilliant questions. And as entrepreneurs, it's very interesting to understand the way that you begin your businesses and your journey and being able to keep them as high impact and as efficient as possible. And of course, that's only possible when you're in an environment whose policies and regulations are conducive to your innovation and scaling. And so I was interested to know what are some of the innovative policies and or regulations, or what would you like to see when it comes to innovation policy that could further support and scale your work?
It's an excellent question. Who would like to tackle that first? Yeah, Emilie.
Fantastic question. we are really butting up against this with Whale Seeker, and I know that a lot of other ocean innovation is as well, is that the laws haven't caught up to what is possible yet. And so, for example, we have a technology that can detect marine mammals with expert accuracy using off-the-shelf technology. And what we would like to see is a set ethical standard as well as a technical standard for scaling these tools within the government, having them be included as regulatory tools that can then mean inclusive management, so it's not just top-down management, but also, and it'll be much more adaptive as well, because the users will be able to input data and feel a sense of ownership and pride and being part of the solution, instead of just receiving rules sort of coming down that might be outdated with the tools that are possible. So yeah, from Whale Seeker's point of view, those are some laws that we wish would catch up with what's possible technology-wise. Yep.
Anyone else from the panel like to take that one? Or pick up on the thread around regulatory barriers?
I can go for it.
Yeah, do you want to go?
So we've benefited a lot being in the jurisdiction that we are as an ocean startup, and credit to a lot of the amazing programs that are available. I have seen programs that have been very prescriptive and make it really hard for innovators to fulfill the challenges or whatever has been laid out. So I really like the frameworks where regulation is looking at us, let's just try out what the industry has, let's try out what these startups have for a little while, and give it a go and see where it lands, and open up a little bit to try it out, rather than we need A through F small sub-features. So I think the testing and try it out type of arrangements for regulation are a positive thing for our industry and for startups in the ocean.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, Eric has a question.
So the three entrepreneurs there have spent some time in Canada. One is now in New Zealand, but still familiar with Canada. I'm curious, how has Canada helped each of you on the data and AI side specifically? How could they help you that they haven't yet? And for Moritz, outside of Canada, New Zealand, or wherever else you want to describe.
Okay, very good question. Shall we start? Moritz, why don't we start outside of Canada?
So Canada has given me an awesome education. I did my PhD here in oceanography at Dalhousie, and so that's what Canada has given me. New Zealand has helped us, and that also pertains to the previous question. New Zealand has helped us to start up our company with a generous government grant that was pretty open to what we were wanting to do, as long as it was in the realm of remote Earth observation, and that included ship tracking as well, which is the topic that we then focused on solely. So this was a sort of a regulatory benefit that we've gained from New Zealand, and then where we benefited, and also in response to the previous question, is to figure out the regulatory framework and build a product into that niche as well. So the audience member who asked that question, we really looked for an application a pain point in the government institution that is looking for, that has a specific problem. And that problem was invasive species coming into Canada and into New Zealand. And Canada has the same concerns. But New Zealand is a remote island nation. We have a better fighting chance of keeping things out. And there are actually laws and regulations that stipulate how incoming vessels have to be checked. And we sort of pinpointed our efforts to help this fight against these organisms coming in with the department, the ministry that is looking after that. So in that sense, a strong regulatory framework has allowed us to focus our effort to build something that is actually useful and it's giving back to the end user.
Very good. Emilie.
I will say that Canada has been really an ideal place to start a company. Just inherently with the social safety nets, I didn't have to worry about losing my health insurance if I was going to go and start a new company. All of those very primal fears for my family's safety, I didn't have to worry about that with the way Canada's government is set up, and so I am very thankful for that, and it's because of that I could even think about starting a company. We are in technology startups. There's a lot of money, not sunk, but dedicated to research and development. So it takes a little bit longer for us to be profitable when there's a lot of deep work to do. And so we have benefited from the IRAP program, the federal government helping small and medium-sized companies with their research to offset some of those costs. There are also tax credits that we benefit from as well that help us pay a living wage to everyone that we employ, and so that everyone within our startup can be happy and live good lives and do very good work. And so those are some of the things that Canada has in place for entrepreneurs that make it a very good place. And then on top of it, there's just so much ocean in Canada so kind of whatever problem you want to tackle, there's an opportunity for you to do that. And in such an inclusive and collaborative environment, and I'm speaking about the ocean tech industry, it's so inspiring to be around other startups who are tackling really exciting questions that we can then fuse together, collaborate, and tackle greater problems together.
Fantastic. And you're also a B Corp, is that right?
We are a certified B Corp.
Can you describe a bit your experience? Like, has that helped you as a startup?
I was doubtful that it would help as a startup because, turning down opportunities that don't align with our missions and our goals was hard to do when you're scrapping for every little penny. But it is, in playing the long game, it has absolutely differentiated us. It has really helped with our employee turnover, which is nil. And it's also attracting clients who, as an AI, trust is a real currency. And just for them to see that we are really transparent with our governance, with our environmental, with our social goals and our standards, helps them also then believe and trust the technology that this same group is building and deploying as well.
Yeah, excellent. Great perspective. Thank you. Scott, how about you?
I love Emilie's answer.
Yeah, go with hers.
I can build on it, but everything you said about being able to raise a family and have that sort of safety behind you is really important and has been extremely important to me. I would add that all the programs that we've been able to leverage to get to where we are, to be a going concern as a company, to get that validation data, to get that initial risk taken care of, the technology risk taken care of, is all being excellent. And then there's maybe one thing that could be helpful, which is on the policy side, really spelling out what technology, what standards need to be met in order for something to become a new program of record. For example, if Environment Canada wants to ingest MarineLabs data, They need to tell us exactly what standards we need to meet in order to do that. I'd like to see that across the board so that people who are developing new technologies know who the receivers, what are the specifications of the receivers of that data, and that would be very, very helpful. So more clarity, I would say, would be great for startups, but otherwise it's been an excellent experience.
Okay, awesome. And Chief, you probably have an interesting perspective of both sort of setting up companies, but also nonprofits, which are also doing a lot of the same innovative work. So can you maybe describe your experience, how you find the environment in Canada?
Well, you think about our territory, it's all about enhancement. It's unwritten law. And it's so important to think about what's happening right now, who we're partnering with to help us get to where we can be sustainable. And, you know, it's great to have partnerships with Scott, doing work in our territory. James Spencer from Shift, working with the Ocean Sled, and then looking how you can use those, the knowledge of our ancestors and incorporate it in today's world. And what is today's world going to look like I always say, in the future, but preparing for that. And the other thing, a lot of people don't know this, in Coast Salish, we have laws around plants. And people might think that's kind of strange, but it's very important to have laws around plants. Because if you do, I'd like to actually see that in the legislature in Victoria, where we could have a law on plants. That way we can take care of the terrestrial environment and biodiversity. It also is the same for the ocean environment, because with kelp and everything else, that's a plant. So I think in the future, what we're striving for in regards to new technology, new innovation, is actually finding ways of incorporating traditional laws in today's colonial society. And if we were to do that, we could actually really get down to being sustainable. As First Nations, we rely on transfer payments from Ottawa. And we don't want to do that forever. We live on Indian reserves, and we want to break away from that. But if you break away from that, you have to be sustainable. And you have to have those resources to take care of your territory. And I think if we think about it in that perspective, you could think about it in all First Nations in the whole of Canada. I think we have something here where if we were to do a little bit of changing, I think we would be able to really do something good right along the whole coast of all three oceans.
Absolutely. Well, it's inspiring, as always. Are there any more questions from the audience? Okay. So I was going to ask about that, actually. You started to pick up on it, but how is it that you find that we can blend together traditional Indigenous knowledge with modern technology, and how do you see those things getting married together?
Well, just think about this. Our ancestors always relied on the canoe for transportation. The ocean was our highway. Relied on wind from our sails to get us to where we want to go. We also relied on the tide. And when you did that, you didn't have to paddle too hard. You let the elements take care of you. Well, now, just think about this. Working with James with the Ocean Sled, it's powered by batteries. Those batteries get charged by solar panels. So theoretically speaking, it's charged by the sun, which is a place we all need to go anyway. So thinking about new technology, new innovation, thinking about change, we're all going to change, and we all have to change together.
Absolutely. That's another way of thinking about sort of technology as that force multiplier. And I'm sure everyone here has a perspective on how it extends certain opportunities. But there's also a lot of challenges with some of those technologies. And we hear a lot about AI and data and how that's going to solve all of our problems. But of course, there's maybe an inherent tension with how you cannot eliminate human intelligence. So maybe, Emilie, you could pick up on that thread about how do you balance that tension of human in the loop kind of interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. So the job of monitoring the oceans is so immense that we need computers to help the current humans reach that goal. And so our point of view is that we're not taking humans out of the equation, but we're using them for what their expertise is. An expert doesn't need to look through hundreds and thousands of images of open water to say there's no whale here. And then sort of anybody who's seen a whale on TV when it's beautiful conditions and there's that perfect whale silhouette can say, oh, there's a whale here. But it's all those judgment calls where the experts' experience and education and knowledge is really needed. Then we call on the human to help with those edge cases. And so what we're trying to do is take all the grunt work away from the experts, free up their time to just make the tough judgment calls. And so, and leverage different technologies such as infrared so that humans can then detect things at nighttime as well, or in the winter in the Arctic when there's poor visibility. And so what we're really trying to do is give humans extra powers with the tools that we're developing.
Awesome. Anyone else want to pick up on that? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can say something about that. So AI, I mean, I'm not sure, probably most people here have seen the meme where somebody prompted AI and they said salmon going down a river. And what it gave is a picture of filleted salmon, like the orange filleted salmon, all just floating in a stream. And so AI is a double-edged sword, and it's an honestly overused buzzword. But where I come from is numerical analysis, optimization, the classical algorithms that get solutions. And I think that we need to be very careful about how we apply AI. I think in image recognition, it's extremely successful and a great place to start. But I think that AI is not going to save us. And so I think that what's needed for AI to be done properly is long-term, consistent data sets that can feed that AI so that it can be leveraged. So we're talking long-term, lots of training data. So I think that's really a core message is that AI, I mean, ChatGPT is not going to write the assignment. It didn't write my speech today. So yes, it's useful in certain cases, but we need to be very careful.
That's a good point. Okay, I have one more question. We often hear in ocean technology that there's a reputation that the path to market is long and that the customers are difficult, and I'm sure some of that is a reputation well earned. But in other cases, I'm hoping you challenge that. Who would like to take on that question, sort of around the sort of the general climate and sort of ease of path to market? Moritz, can I throw you under the bus first?
From what I've seen here and the co-panelists here and everybody I've spoken to at the conference, everybody's success here is completely deserved. So they've all been building incredible tech and incredible products. But it's not hard, it's not easy to sell and make a living of it. So we experience that ourselves. We rely on long sales cycles in government. We rely on, hurdles are, funding sources, networking, all these things. So it's tough. I don't think it's tougher than anywhere else, but the ocean is a frontier that is to be reckoned with, and it is a technology where you can't succeed if you don't build something awesome.
I love the way that you frame that, and that should be true in every sector. Emilie, you're...
Sure. How do I say something positive? I will say that there's a role for private industry, there's a role for government, there's a role for NGOs, and they're all very important, and in academia, they all need to be working together, because in order to get innovation off the ground, tested, de-risked, and scaled, all of those actors need to buy in to it. And so the strength of a private company is that maybe we can pivot a little bit faster than an NGO or academia or the government could. And then we need other private industries to take a risk on us, where with public funds, maybe it's not a responsible thing because we're too early. And so we really need some early risk takers to believe in ocean innovation and see a new path forward with us, so that we can then create the rigor with which governments and academia will then understand what we are doing as well. So there really are lots of steps, and there are lots of actors that need to be collaborating with us together in order to meet those really lofty goals for us to scale globally in a way that we all want to make a difference.
Yeah, I think that was really beautifully articulated, and a great way to close up the panel. And so I'd like to thank the panelists for these contributions and insights today. I think it's a really energizing space. It's clear that everyone has some incredible products, some awesome products, a lot of passion, and that it takes a whole ecosystem. So wonderful to hear those closing remarks. And thanks to the audience, and of course to Savina and Impact 5 for the opportunity to be here with you all today.
All right. That was fun.